The sound that echoed across Meadowbrook Ranch in rural Wyoming was unlike anything the neighbors had ever heard. A deep, mournful bellowing that seemed to carry the weight of the world. For 5 days straight, the massive Hereford bull named Red Rock had stood vigil beside the wooden fence where his lifelong companion, an elderly draft horse called Copper, had collapsed and died from complications of old age. Red Rock's cries weren't the aggressive roars of an angry animal, but something far more heartbreaking, the profound grief of a creature who had lost his dearest friend. The 2,800-pound bull had refused to eat, drink, or move more than a few feet from the spot where Copper had taken his last breath, as if his presence could somehow bring back the gentle giant who had been his constant companion for 8 years. Ranch owner Emma Sullivan had never witnessed such a display of emotion from livestock. "I've been around cattle my whole life," she told her veterinarian, Dr. Patricia Morris, over the phone, her voice thick with concern. "But I've never seen grief like this. Red Rock is literally mourning, and I don't know how to help him. He's going to die if this continues." The unusual friendship between Red Rock and Copper had begun when both animals arrived at Meadowbrook Ranch as rescues from a failing operation in Colorado. Red Rock had been an isolated, temperamental bull with aggressive tendencies, while Copper was a 22-year-old Clydesdale that was considered too old for heavy work. Somehow, these two gentle giants had found solace in each other's company. They were inseparable from day one, Emma explained to anyone who would listen. Every morning, Copper would amble over to Red Rock's section of the pasture, and they'd spend hours just standing together. The bull would rest his massive head against Copper's neck, and the horse would gently groom Red Rock's ears with his teeth. It was the most beautiful friendship I'd ever seen between different species. Dr. Morris had examined Red Rock from a safe distance, noting his obvious signs of depression, dehydration, and the dangerous weight loss that had begun to show in his normally robust frame. "Animals can experience grief just as profoundly as humans," she explained to Emma. The bond between Red Rock and Copper was clearly deeper than simple companionship. He's experiencing genuine mourning, and forcing him to eat or move away from this spot could traumatize him even further. The local community had begun to take notice of Red Rock's vigil. Neighbors driving past the ranch would slow down to listen to his mournful calls, and many found themselves moved to tears by the raw emotion in the bull's voice. Word spread quickly through the small Wyoming town about the grieving bull who wouldn't leave his friend's final resting place. "It's the saddest sound I've ever heard," said local shop owner Marie Chen, who had stopped by to check on the situation. "That poor animal is crying for his lost friend, and there's nothing anyone can do to explain to him that Copper isn't coming back. It's breaking everyone's heart who hears it." Red Rock's imposing size made his grief even more poignant. Standing 6 feet tall at the shoulder and weighing nearly 3,000 pounds, he was a formidable creature capable of tremendous power. Instead of using that strength destructively, he stood motionless except for the occasional gentle nudge he would give to the wooden fence post where Copper used to rest his massive head. The bull's eyes, normally alert and intelligent, had taken on a glazed quality that spoke of depression deeper than simple animal instinct. His usual hearty appetite had completely disappeared, and his beautiful reddish-brown coat was beginning to lose its luster from neglect and the dehydration that was slowly killing him. "He's fading away before our eyes," Emma told her ranch hands during their morning meeting. "We've tried everything. His favorite alfalfa, fresh water right next to him, even bringing other cattle to keep him company. Nothing works. It's like he's decided to follow Copper wherever he went." As the 6th day of Red Rock's vigil dawned with no change in his condition, the Sullivan family faced a heartbreaking reality. Their gentle giant was slowly dying of grief, and despite all their efforts to coax him back to life, he seemed determined to join his beloved Copper in whatever comes after this world. Little did anyone know that hope was about to arrive in the form of a lonely old man who understood the devastating weight of loss better than anyone else could imagine. Have you ever seen an animal grieve so deeply for a lost companion? What do you think it would take to help someone or something heal from such profound heartbreak? Oliver Hensley had been driving aimlessly through the Wyoming countryside for months, trying to escape the suffocating emptiness of his house where every room held memories of his late wife Ruth. At 74 years old, The retired carpenter found himself completely adrift without the woman who had been his anchor for 49 years. And no amount of well-meaning visits from his adult children could fill the crushing void that followed him everywhere. When he first heard Red Rock's mournful bellowing echoing across the valley, Oliver pulled his weathered pickup truck to the shoulder and sat listening to the sound that seemed to perfectly capture his own inner anguish. The raw emotion in the bull's voice was unmistakable. Here was another soul crying out in grief, another being who understood the devastating reality of losing the most important thing in your world. "Dear God," Oliver whispered, feeling tears start to form in his tired eyes. "That poor creature sounds exactly like I feel inside." Something compelled Oliver to investigate the source of those heartbreaking cries. He had always felt a natural connection with animals, a trait that had served him well during his years of building custom furniture, when he would often work alongside barn cats and farm dogs who seemed to understand his quiet nature. Emma Sullivan noticed the elderly stranger approaching her ranch gate and quickly walked over to meet him. "I'm sorry, sir, but this is private property. We're dealing with a difficult situation here, and it's not really safe for visitors right now." "I heard him crying from the road," Oliver said simply, his voice carrying the weight of his own recent loss. "That sound? I recognize that sound. He's grieving for someone, isn't he?" Emma studied the old man's weathered face and saw something in his gentle eyes that made her reconsider her protective stance. "Yes, he lost his best friend 6 days ago, a horse named Copper. They were together for 8 years, and now Red Rock won't eat or drink or move away from where Copper died. We're afraid he's going to die from grief. If this incredible story of two broken hearts finding healing in each other's company touches your soul, we'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us share more amazing stories like this one, about the mysterious ways that understanding and compassion can emerge from our darkest moments of loss. Every subscription and like means the world to us and helps these heartwarming tales reach people who need to see that even in our deepest sorrow, hope can appear when we least expect it. Thank you for being part of our community that believes in the healing power of connection between souls who understand each other's pain. Oliver nodded slowly, a look of deep understanding crossing his weathered features. "I lost my Ruth 8 months ago, 49 years together, and then the cancer took her in 3 weeks. That bull and I were fighting the same battle against the same enemy, the terrible loneliness that comes when half of your heart gets buried with someone you can't live without." Something in Oliver's tone made Emma reconsider her protective stance entirely. "Would you like to see him? I can't let you get too close. He's been unpredictable since this started. But maybe from the fence line." "I'd be honored," Oliver replied quietly. Sometimes one broken heart recognizes another. As they approached Red Rock's location, the massive bull's ears twitched slightly at the sound of approaching footsteps, but he didn't turn away from his vigil beside the fence post where Copper used to stand. Oliver stopped about 15 feet away and simply stood there, taking in the sight of the magnificent creature whose suffering was so visible it made his own heart ache with recognition. "Hello there, big fellow," Oliver said softly, his voice carrying none of the forced cheerfulness that people often used around grieving individuals. "I heard you crying for your friend. I want you to know that I understand what you're going through, and I'm sorry for your loss." Red Rock's massive head turned slightly at the sound of Oliver's voice. There was something different about this human. No urgency, no attempts to coax or distract or fix. Just quiet acknowledgement of pain that needed to be honored and felt. "His name was Copper," Oliver continued, speaking as if Red Rock could understand every word. "Emma told me you two were together for 8 years. That's a beautiful friendship. My Ruth and I were together much longer, but I know what you're feeling right now. The world feels empty and wrong without them, doesn't it?" For the first time in 6 days, Red Rock took a step away from his vigil spot. Not far, just a small movement toward the fence where this new human stood speaking words that somehow felt different from all the others who had tried to help. "Everyone keeps telling me I need to get back out there and start living again," Oliver said, settling himself carefully on a tree stump near the fence. "But they don't understand that grief isn't something you get over like a cold. Grief is love with nowhere to go. You're not ready to let go of Copper yet, and that's perfectly normal." Do you believe that grief can create a special bond between souls, even across different species? Have you ever found unexpected comfort from someone who truly understood your pain? Word spread quickly through the small Wyoming community about the elderly man who had somehow connected with the grieving bull that no one else could reach. Every day for the past 2 weeks, Oliver Hensley had returned to Meadowbrook Ranch, sitting on his tree stump by the fence and talking to Red Rock, as if the massive animal was an old friend who needed someone to understand his pain. It's the most remarkable thing I've ever witnessed in 30 years of veterinary practice, Dr. Patricia Morris told Emma Sullivan during a follow-up visit. This bull was literally dying of grief, refusing all food and water. But since Mr. Hensley started visiting, Red Rock has begun eating small amounts and drinking regularly. His vital signs are stabilizing. Emma had initially been cautious about allowing a stranger to spend time near their troubled animal, but the results were undeniable. Red Rock's desperate bellowing had softened to occasional low rumbles, and his rigid posture had relaxed into something approaching peace when Oliver was present. "Tell me about the good times you had with Copper," Oliver said during his morning visit, settling into what had become his regular spot. "Ruth and I used to sit on our front porch every evening, watching the sunset and talking about our day. She had this way of finding something beautiful in even the most ordinary moments." Red Rock had begun approaching the fence during these conversations, drawn by Oliver's calm presence and the soothing rhythm of his voice. The bull would stand just a few feet away, his massive head lowered as if he was genuinely listening to stories about love, loss, and the memories that keep us connected to those we've lost. "People don't understand that healing isn't about forgetting," Oliver continued, his weathered hands folded peacefully in his lap. "They think grief is something to get past as quickly as possible, like it's a problem to be solved. But you and I know better, don't we? Grief is just love that has nowhere to go anymore." Dr. Morris observed their interactions with professional fascination. "The bull's entire stress response has changed when Mr. Hensley is present," she noted in her records. "His breathing slows, his muscle tension decreases, and he shows signs of actual attention rather than the dissociation we saw during the acute grief phase." Oliver had begun bringing small offerings during his visits. Not treats or bribes, but simple tokens of respect. Sometimes it was a handful of fresh clover he'd picked along the roadside. Other times just a smooth stone from his pocket that he would place on the fence post as a gesture of solidarity between two souls who understood loss. "I brought you something today," Oliver said, pulling out a worn photograph of himself and Ruth from their 50th wedding anniversary celebration. "This is my Ruth. She would have loved you, Red Rock. She had a way with animals. Said they could sense when someone had a good heart." Red Rock moved closer to the fence than he had ever come before, his dark eyes studying the photograph with an intensity that surprised everyone watching. The bull's breathing had become deep and regular, no longer the shallow panting of an animal in distress. "Ruth used to tell me that love doesn't end when someone dies," Oliver continued, his voice taking on a storytelling quality. "She said it just changes form, becomes something we carry inside us instead of something we share every day. Maybe Copper is still with you in a different way now." Emma watched from the ranch house window as Oliver and Red Rock spent their quiet time together, amazed at how the presence of one lonely old man could create such a transformation in an animal that veterinarians had feared was beyond help. "It's like they're speaking the same language," Emma told her husband during dinner, "a language that doesn't need words because it's based on understanding what it feels like to lose the most important thing in your world." Oliver had begun extending his visits, sometimes staying for hours just sitting quietly with Red Rock. Neither of them seemed to need constant conversation. Sometimes the most healing moments came from simply being in the presence of someone who understood that some wounds take time to heal. "You know what I've learned about grief?" Oliver asked Red Rock during one particularly peaceful afternoon. "It comes in waves. Some days the missing feels so heavy you can barely breathe, and other days you can almost smile when you remember the good times. Both kinds of days are okay." Red Rock had begun showing interest in his surroundings again, occasionally lifting his head to watch birds or notice changes in the weather. Small signs but significant progress for an animal who had been trapped in the darkest depths of mourning. The transformation wasn't just affecting Red Rock. Oliver had begun to look forward to his daily visits, finding purpose in comforting another grieving soul and discovering that helping someone else process loss was somehow helping him begin to heal as well. Have you ever found that helping someone else through their pain actually helped you deal with your own? Do you think animals and humans grieve in similar ways? 3 months after Oliver first arrived at Meadowbrook Ranch, the transformation in both man and bull was remarkable to witness. Red Rock had not only returned to eating and drinking normally, but had begun interacting with the other cattle and showing interest in his surroundings. Oliver, meanwhile, had started smiling again for the first time since Ruth's death, finding renewed purpose in his daily visits with his unlikely friend. I never thought I'd see the day when Red Rock would approach strangers willingly, Emma Sullivan told Dr. Morris during a routine checkup. But yesterday, when the Johnson family brought their kids to see him, he actually walked up to the fence and let little Sarah pet his nose. Oliver has worked some kind of miracle with that bull. The daily routine between Oliver and Red Rock had evolved into something beautiful and therapeutic for both of them. Oliver would arrive each morning with his thermos of coffee and settle onto his familiar tree stump, while Red Rock would amble over to the fence line with an eagerness that warmed everyone's heart. "Good morning, old friend," Oliver would say, and Red Rock would respond with a gentle rumble that had replaced his earlier cries of despair. "I brought pictures to show you today. Ruth and I took a trip to Yellowstone on our 40th anniversary, and I thought you might like to hear about it." Dr. Morris had documented their relationship as a case study in interspecies therapeutic bonding. "What we're witnessing challenges conventional understanding of animal psychology," she explained to veterinary students who came to observe. "Red Rock's recovery isn't just physical, it's emotional healing facilitated by genuine companionship and understanding." Oliver had begun bringing more personal items to share with Red Rock: photo albums, letters Ruth had written him during their courtship, even her favorite book of poetry that he would sometimes read aloud. The bull would stand quietly, his massive presence somehow comforting to the old man who had found solace in having someone to talk to who didn't judge or offer unwanted advice. "You know what Ruth used to say about friendship?" Oliver asked Red Rock during one of their afternoon conversations. "She said the best friends are the ones who can sit together in silence and still feel perfectly comfortable. We've got that kind of friendship, don't we?" The local community had embraced the story of Oliver and Red Rock, with many people stopping by to witness their remarkable bond. Children were especially fascinated by the gentle giant who had learned to trust again through the patience of one lonely man who understood his pain. "It's like watching magic happen," said visiting rancher Bob Martinez from Colorado. "I've been around livestock my whole life, and I've never seen anything like the connection between those two. That bull actually seems to listen when Mr. Hensley talks to him." Oliver had started bringing his late wife's garden tools to the ranch, using them to plant flowers around Red Rock's favorite resting spot. "Ruth always said that beautiful things should grow where love has been," he explained to Emma. "Seems fitting to plant something pretty here, where copper used to stand with Red Rock." The therapeutic relationship was working both ways. Red Rock's calm presence and obvious appreciation for Oliver's visits had given the elderly man a reason to get up each morning and a sense of purpose that had been missing since Ruth's death. Their friendship had become a source of healing for both broken hearts. "I think Ruth would be proud of what we've accomplished together," Oliver told Red Rock while watering the small flower garden they had created. "She always believed that love multiplies when you share it, and that helping others heal helps us heal too." Dr. Morris had recommended that Oliver's approach be studied and potentially replicated in other cases of animal trauma and depression. "The key seems to be authentic understanding rather than attempts to fix or change," she noted in her research. "Mr. Hensley never tried to make Red Rock get over his grief. He simply provided companionship through the healing process." Red Rock had begun following Oliver around the pasture during visits, like a massive shadow who found comfort in proximity to his human friend. The bull's gentle nature had fully emerged, revealing the personality that had been buried under grief and loss. "We're both different than we were when we first met," Oliver reflected during one particularly peaceful afternoon. "Still carrying our losses, but not carrying them alone anymore. Sometimes that makes all the difference in the world." The bond between them had become a testament to the healing power of patience, understanding, and the simple act of showing up consistently for someone who needs to know they're not forgotten. What do you think is more important when helping someone through grief, offering advice, or just being present? Have you ever found healing through an unexpected friendship? 1 year after their first meeting, Oliver Hensley and Red Rock had become local celebrities, inspiring visitors from across the country who came to witness their extraordinary friendship and learn about the healing power of genuine understanding. The Meadowbrook Ranch had transformed into an informal sanctuary where people dealing with loss could find hope in the story of a lonely man and a grieving bull who saved each other. Oliver, now 75 and healthier than he had been in years, had found new meaning in his golden years through his relationship with Red Rock and the community that had grown around their story. The daily visits had evolved into something much larger, a living example of how connection and patience could triumph over even the deepest grief. "I never imagined that losing Ruth would lead me to this," Oliver told a group of visitors who had come to hear their story. "But life has a way of bringing broken pieces together in ways we never expect. Red Rock taught me that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to carry love in a different way." Red Rock, now fully recovered and thriving, had become a gentle ambassador for the therapeutic power of animal companionship. The massive bull would approach visitors with calm curiosity, seeming to sense when someone was carrying their own burden of loss and offering his quiet presence as comfort. Emma Sullivan had officially designated a section of her ranch as a grief counseling area, where trained therapists worked with Oliver to help visitors process their own losses while spending time with Red Rock and other rescued animals. "What started as one man helping one bull has become a healing space for our entire community," she explained to reporters. Dr. Morris had published several papers about the Oliver Red Rock case, contributing to new research about animal-assisted therapy and the importance of addressing grief in both humans and animals. "Their relationship has changed how we approach trauma recovery," she told colleagues at a veterinary conference. "It proves that authentic emotional connection transcends species barriers." Oliver had started keeping a journal of his conversations with Red Rock, which he planned to compile into a book about finding hope after loss. "People need to know that grief isn't something to be ashamed of or rush through," he said. "Red Rock and I discovered that sitting with someone in their pain is sometimes the greatest gift you can offer." The flower garden that Oliver had planted around Red Rock's favorite spot had grown into a beautiful memorial space where visitors could sit quietly and reflect on their own losses. A simple wooden bench bore a small plaque that read, "In memory of Copper and Ruth, whose love continues in new forms." Local schools had begun organizing field trips to meet Oliver and Red Rock, using their story to teach children about empathy, resilience, and the healing power of friendship. "Mr. Oliver and Red Rock show us that being sad is okay, and that helping someone else feel better can help us feel better too," wrote 10-year-old Emma Chen in her class essay. Oliver's adult children, who had initially worried about their father's daily trips to visit a bull, now understood that this unlikely friendship had given him a reason to live again. "Dad is more like his old self than he's been since Mom died," his daughter Susan told her siblings. "Red Rock gave him back his purpose." The ranch had established a small visitor center where Oliver would spend afternoons sharing stories about Ruth, Copper, and the unexpected journey that brought him and Red Rock together. His gentle wisdom and Red Rock's calm presence created a space where people felt safe to share their own stories of loss and hope. "What I've learned from Red Rock is that love is stronger than loss," Oliver told a widow who had driven 3 states to visit them. "When someone we love dies, that love doesn't disappear. It just needs a new way to express itself. Sometimes that expression is helping someone else who's walking the same difficult path." Red Rock had become protective of Oliver, positioning himself nearby whenever crowds gathered and seeming to understand his role as both friend and therapy partner. Their bond had deepened beyond the initial shared grief into genuine affection and mutual support. Ruth used to say that everything happens for a reason, even the painful things, Oliver reflected during a quiet moment with Red Rock. "I couldn't see any reason for losing her, but maybe the reason was bringing me to you and bringing us to all the people who've found comfort in our story." As the sun set over the Wyoming mountains, Oliver and Red Rock would often stand together in peaceful silence, two souls who had found healing through understanding each other's pain and choosing to transform their grief into a gift for others who needed to know that hope could emerge from even the darkest sorrow. Their story had become a beacon of light for anyone who had ever wondered if they could survive the loss of someone irreplaceable, proving that sometimes our greatest purpose emerges from our deepest wounds when we choose to use our pain to help others heal. How has this story of Oliver and Red Rock changed your perspective on grief and healing? Do you believe that our greatest challenges can sometimes lead us to our most important purposes? This bull was crying for days. Then a lonely grandpa showed up.